Whatever was going on right before this fight collapsed the side of this mountain. Good God. Ever notice this mysterious door that never appears again after this scene? It doesn't have any diamond symbolism, so it might belong to the crystal gems? Or maybe it's some man-made door, but then why would a gem monster be here?
Alright, everyone.
One more attack should do it.
What is this, an RPG? Can you see this thing's health bar?
Yikes! Your arm!
I do think it's kind of weird that a part of this gem monster can be totally severed and still exist. There's a brief moment in a previous episode, Beach Party, where Amethyst's hair gets cut, and it's kind of the same question I have for that. How can a part of a gem's body get cut off? It always seemed like an all-or-nothing deal to me.
I'm sending you back to the temple. But Garnet, how are you gonna...
What? You can't just do that, that's insane! I mean, it violates everything I said was great about warp pads, having the ability to teleport but with the limitation of only going to and from specific places. This is just an instant trip home for free. Garnet being able to do this is actually magic breaking, and it's even more of an enigma because it never happens again, when it probably should have at pivotal moments. Steven spends a lot of time on the floor right next to or even on top of the scorching hot lava in this scene. Actually, that happens a lot whenever there are scenes in this room. You can see the Centipedal tries to take her previous normal form here, just like how Pearl went through some of her previous forms when she reformed. I couldn't tell you why it reforms to the size of a Jack Russell Terrier though, when in episode 1 it was bigger than the whole house. I suppose the reason is plot. If it was as big as it was in that episode, this episode wouldn't really work later. They wouldn't even be able to get the thing out of the temple door at that size.
It looks so scared.
Do you think it's scared because it can see all the bubbled gems? Do you think its mind is still intact enough to comprehend something like that? Or is it just traumatized because the last thing it remembers is getting electrocuted and then immediately pummeled into a Pokeball?
Yeah, just relax. Yeah, that's it.
There's something I don't quite get about this episode. If it took Steven such a short time to get the Centipedal to calm down, why in the thousands of years that these gem monsters existed on Earth did none of the crystal gems do this? Even if they had to kill them and bubble them for safety, why not get them to calm down and do it humanely? If the Centipedal behaves like this, then surely the other gem monsters couldn't be much different. Corruption isn't rabies.
My name's Steven.
Steven almost had a How to Train Your Dragon moment with it. This whole episode is basically How to Train Your Gem Monster. That's probably why I like it so much.
And he's even managed to pop a bubble and let out that awful thing!
Who are you calling a thing? That's racist.
It's not like the other monsters. It's just scared and confused.
Again, how does anyone know that? How do they figure all the monsters aren't exactly like that? I mean, that's actually the case. That's kind of the whole point of the gem monsters being corrupted in the first place.
Shut down by the G-Squad!
Amethyst gets nothing to do in this episode except say a few funny lines. However, do you think her calling Garnet a squad is foreshadowing that she's a fusion? Anyone ever straight up forget that Lion is a character in this show at all? He comes and goes so often, and when he goes, he's usually gone for a long time. You go so many episodes without seeing him, it's jarring when he shows up again.
Maybe you guys could put your weapons away and watch from the house?
Absolutely not!
I kept thinking this line was reused from some other scene, but it's not. In fact, it's the only time the phrase absolutely not is said in the whole show. A free year of apprentice patronship goes to the first person who can find that phrase in another episode. I'm confident it's not there.
Steven can handle this.
Garnet?
Pearl?
That's the best comeback, better than any of the comebacks in the pilot.
Chips? You like chips?
The existence of chaps in this world confuses and befuddles me. This just looks like a brand of potato chips, but in a future episode, Steven says something about a brand of chaps, as if chaps is what chips are called in this world. Maybe it's a situation like Band-Aid or Kleenex or Google. Genericization, that's the word.
I don't know how you eat with an eyeball in your mouth.
I don't know how a gem monster can be food motivated, but here we are.
You love chips, and I love chips.
There's another trailer line. You know, eventually I'll get to a point in later seasons where I stop seeing previews and I won't be able to point them out. At some point I recorded these on a TiVo and skipped all the commercials. You guys remember TiVo? That's another genericization.
Garnet, Pearl, Amethyst.
Whoa, why isn't that thing on its rock?
You saw it melt through the chains with acid, right? Like, everyone was there. Everyone saw it.
I trained her up. Look! Squall!
So that post isn't load-bearing, evidently. Why is it there then? What the fuck was Greg doing when he built this place? I made this joke 7 years ago and I feel like I should make it again. The last evidence of Pearl's old design has been destroyed.
That was awesome.
No! Mi torta!
Remember what I said about Amethyst having some great lines in this episode? Well, I think this is one of her most iconic lines in the whole series. I love it.
Well, I don't know how we're gonna get through all those ice boulders without causing a cave-in anyway.
That's how.
Future Vision? Was that a Future Vision moment? It has to be, right? I don't know how else Garnet would be so confident about this. Also, we got through that whole scene in the house, and there wasn't a single stool continuity error. I said that in a previous episode, and I was wrong, but this time I triple checked, and all the stools are present and accounted for.
Centipedal?
I'm not a fucking cave or mine tunnel shoring expert, at least not professionally, but how would melting through the ice prevent cave-ins any more than just drilling through or moving the ice methodically? Something about vibrations? I genuinely don't know. Steven just abandoned the gems in this shot. They're nowhere to be seen. I've heard horror stories of people exploring caves alone. I wouldn't recommend it. Also, gotta ask, we're underground, where is any light coming from? That goes for any media with caves. Where does the light come from? Looks like this guy went caving alone, or got abandoned by his team. I don't know why Amethyst sounds so disgusted. She has bones in her room. I guess those are her bones. Look at how in awe the Centipedal is. I just think it's so cool how they can make it so expressive despite lacking a proper face. That just shows how well the art style works. It makes me wonder if the pilot's art style could pull off the same thing.
Cool!
This is what they call Chekhov's stalactites.
There it is! The shooting star! An ancient elemental, so hot and so volatile, it can only be contained in ice. Bare skin cannot endure its intensity.
I think this is where the Adventure Time DNA displays itself the most throughout the whole show. That line and the shooting star itself feels straight out of Adventure Time. I don't know how else to explain it. Also, Pearl gets stuck like this for a bit.
What do you do with the shooting star?
You shoot it.
Add the shooting star to the list of weird Season 1 things that never appear again. This is the most enigmatic because we don't actually know what it does. It shows up once in a Future Vision moment, but there's no way to tell how real that was. I like it though, it's a total MacGuffin. See, why didn't this happen before when she was spewing acid all over the cave? Something targeted spray, I guess. They really beat the fuck out of the Centipedal. I can't help but feel bad for it. We spent this whole episode seeing Steven connect with it, and now it's like his pet. And the gems just kick it around like a football. A lot of that got cut out in other countries.
This isn't you! You're not a monster anymore!
This speech is a few seasons too early, don't you think? It's kinda cool listening to this when you've seen the whole show, though. Steven doesn't know about corruption just yet, but it's cool to see the pieces he's put together on his own. This shot with its gem going dark was also cut in a lot of other countries. I suppose you can't allude to death at all in kids' shows in those countries.
Rose Quartz had tried to use her powers to save these monsters too, but she was never able to heal them.
Going back a couple pages, this could be the reason that the gems have to fight gem monsters. What if Rose Quartz did talk to them and get them to calm down before killing them humanely? What if she was the only one skilled enough to pull that off, and when Steven was born, the other gems had to resort to using brute force? Again, headcanon stuff. But it makes me disappointed that we've already been through most of the gem monster episodes in this series. I wish we could have seen some more of Steven using his own methods to take them out, or better yet, a flashback episode with Rose Quartz fighting gem monsters. That's the spin-off that I want to see, a Rose Quartz show.
Wait for me, Centipedal. I promise I'll heal you up someday.
And that's the exact moment where Steven Universe as a whole stopped being a Monster of the Week type of show. Now there's continuity, an objective that spans the whole series. I used to think the main story kicked off in Mirror Gem 2 episodes from now, but I realize now that it's right here. The Centipedal is like a through line for the rest of the show, a symbol of Steven's progress. This isn't a usual episode that comes to mind when I think of Season 1. There isn't much spectacle or big reveals in this one. In fact, it's kinda slow most of the time, and there isn't much comedy aside from Amethyst one-liners. But like I said, this episode is pivotal. It's incredibly important to the show as a whole. I love it for that. It's an episode that feels bittersweet at the end, because it's the first episode that leaves something unresolved. It feels so different, but that's going to be a normal feeling going forward. We're finally at that halfway point in Season 1 that I kept talking about in previous videos. If you want to see the next episode a week in advance, you can subscribe to my Patreon for just a couple bucks. The link is in the description. Shoutouts to my Journeyman patrons, Alex Martin, Bingus Kid, Boomblorp, Emily, Fiore Army, Mike Hawk, very funny, Raylin, Cinderant, Scala LD, Steven Wickers, and the Tamara. Also shoutouts to these apprentice patrons. Remember, there's a bounty out that will get your name here as well. Next episode is an indirect kiss. Ooh, someone's in love.